"Alvin," my father boomed. "How are you, my brother?" Dr. Miller stuck out his hand and gave my dad a broad grin. "I'm doing well, Reverend. Doing very well. And yourself?" "It's a hot one today, but the Lord saw fit to give us good weather for our travels, so I can't complain." "Well, come in and kick the dust off your boots. Martha's got supper almost ready." I walked around to the trunk to get our travel bags, and almost jumped out of my skin when Marlene Miller appeared right at my elbow. "Hi, Billy Ray Davenport. Long time no see." "Hi yourself." Her hair was pulled back in a sleek blonde ponytail, and she smelled of some kind of cloying, flowery perfume. She wore a polka dot dress that tied around her neck, leaving her shoulders bare. The skirt stood out all around her like a moat around a castle. A belt cinched her tiny waist and emphasized her chest. I knew a lot of the guys at my college would think Marlene Miller was the cat's meow. She was pretty, no doubt, but although she looked like a nice girl on the outside, I hadn't seen any evidence she was nice on the inside. She batted her eyelashes at me. "Here, let me get one of those bags for you." I lifted the suitcases, setting each one on the ground beside me, and slammed the trunk shut. "Now, what do you think my dad would say if I let a girl carry my suitcase?" I shook my head and grinned at her as I leaned over and picked up one bag, then the other. She stood stock still, blinking and staring at me for a second. Then she seemed to come around, shrugging her bare shoulders. As I started toward the house, she slipped her arm in mine, making me lean over awkwardly to keep from bumping her with the suitcase. "It's really cool that you're staying all summer. I've told all my friends you're here, so we'll get invites to all the big bashes in the county." "I'm here to work, Marlene, not to play around." She pouted and pulled away from me, hands on her hips. "College hasn't changed you a bit, has it? You're as square as you ever were." "That I am." I left her standing there and hurried up the front porch steps. As I set our bags just inside the hallway, Charlie came hurtling down the stairs, grinning from ear to ear. He reminded me of the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland, a story my mother used to read to me. I couldn't help smiling back at him. "Billy Ray!" He shook my hand and clapped my shoulder. "How you doing?" "Right as rain, and you?" "Never better. Come on in, supper's almost ready and I'm half starved." I followed him into the dining room and we sat at the sleek mahogany table set with china plates. I liked how the Millers' formal sit-down dinners were generously sprinkled with conversation. Dad and I conversed over meals at times, but Aunt Catherine hardly ever said a word at the table. About 10 minutes later, the rest of the family gathered for the evening meal. The rumbling sound of Dad's voice saying grace washed over me in a familiar, comforting wave. That is, until his words mashed together in an abrupt pile-up, because somewhere in the middle of the blessing, Marlene's hand found its way to my thigh and gave it a firm squeeze. She was lucky I didn't leap right out of my chair with a yelp. Last summer, the flirtatious smiles and batting eyelashes were bad enough, but now it was apparent that the girl was on a serious mission to get my attention. After Dad declared, "Amen," I glared at her, but she just responded with a smug little smile. Trying my best to ignore her, I tucked into country fried steak, mashed potatoes, and green beans, listening closely to Dr. Miller as he told my father the plight of one of the families in the Orchard Hill community. "Quinlan had some wind damage to his barn during that awful storm last month." "He hasn't fixed it yet?" Dad asked as he passed me the butter for my cornbread. "He bought the lumber, but has no one to help him do the repairs. He's got all those girls, you know. No sons to help him out, and no other family around these parts." Dad frowned, and I remembered that he didn't care much for Tom Quinlan. Tom himself never attended church, and Dad thought he was too lax with his parenting responsibilities and impractical with his money. But in spite of all that, I knew what the next words out of Dad's mouth would be. "Well, what better way to lead a man to the river of salvation than to help him pull his ox from the ditch?"